Thanks for joining me today, Bart. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Wow. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. Bart Womack, Command Sergeant Major, retired United States Army.
Very good, sir. So, you have had quite the career in the military and also as an author. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your book.
Wow. Jumping right into it. I like that. I served in the Army for almost 29 and a half years. My last assignment was with the 101st Airborne Division. And at the time of the story in the book, I was still in 101st Airborne Division, but I was the Command Sergeant Major of the 1st Brigade Combat Team. So at that time in the 101st, we had three brigade combat teams, and they were 1st Brigade, 2nd Brigade, and 3rd Brigade. I was in charge of the 1st Brigade. So we were responding to the 911 and deployed to Kuwait for the war in Iraq. This is March of 2003. We've been there about 20 some days. So I think a couple of days after what they call shock and awe, which is I call bombs on Baghdad. When we leveled parts of Baghdad looking for Saddam Hussein. 2 days after that, it's a Saturday over there. And we were putting the final touches on our part of the order to invade Iraq. At that particular time, we were going to cross the border on a Thursday, so about 5 days from that time. But we were putting the final touches on that order. And, night comes, our ammo just came right at dusk that day. My driver had bought me some 9mm ammo. I was going to load my magazines. I was doing bill pay on the computer. And I was watching Tiger Woods play golf in what was called the Bay Hill Invitation, I believe, at the time. So the last unit that was there on the camp had left the television. I figured out how to get American golf. So I'm watching television. I'm slowly loading magazines, and the tit flap to my right had blown, and I could, hear it scrape up against the ground, against the floor. And, caught my attention. I looked over there and just noticed it was the wind had blown the flap. And, went back to watching television. Then it happened again. And within a second of that, this object comes in, and I don't see it kind of roll in, but I do see once it stopped, sparks. And just a quick glance, like I see these sparks, and I know that we are in the land of not quite right. And that's a not quite right grenade that's sparking before it explodes. I'm not as good as you, where I'm going to go over there. Oh, what's this? Oh, I've never seen that before. Yeah, it didn't do that. So I see those sparks. I jump up, and I should mention that my Brigade XO was in the tent at the same time. He was on the other side of the table that I was sitting at, and he saw what I saw. So I knew he could take care of himself. But our commander was in the back of the tent asleep. Now it's probably pretty close to 1 a.m. in the morning, and our commander went to sleep at like 2,200 hours. So I run to the back of the tent to get him up, say, hey, we got to get out of here. There's a grenade up front about to go off. So he gets up, he's scrambling, what's going on? And, trying to get some clothes on and some boots on. And he kind of texted, I was like, hold up, I'm going to count. And I said, I'm count to 3, and I'm just going to say go. So I was like, 1, 2, 3, go. And we start running. As we're running, he's on the right side of the tent, I'm on the left. And there's only one way out. We have to go straight out to the front because the back had an air conditioner heater unit. You couldn't get out the back. So we take off running. While we're running, we learn later that a frag grenade comes into the tent and it explodes. And maybe because I was up already and he was, just waking up, like I'll be Carl Lewis 11 times out of 8 in the 100-yard dash. That's how fast I was moving. So I'm outside the tent and I get out there and I'm calling for him because he's not there. At the time, I'll just tell you that we don't know that this frag grenade had came in and then exploded during the time that we were moving. Had no idea of that. But that ends up knocking him back into his sleep area. Our XO, like I said, you saw that sparks with that one thing. He moves to a different position away from that. And kind of where his area, where he slept at. And I had this wall locker that someone found in the desert over in my area. And that wall locker took at least the brunt of the force protecting shrapnel from coming and hitting the XO. So I'm outside, I'm calling for the commander, and it's in low tone, I should say. Again, that first thing I thought was some type of grenade. Don't even hear or feel the frag grenade. Doctors have to tell you why, because I can't. That's what adrenaline does so fast. And then I hear a gunshot, and I hear a yell, and I notice the XO being shot. So I turn around, pull out my pistol, cock it, and if you cock it, you got ammo in a 9mm. You pull it, you hear that sound. But when you have a magazine and you don't have ammo, it just goes. But that's what I heard. They had a little picture in my head of the ammo sitting on the table inside the tent. And I'm like, oh, crap. I don't have ammo. Although I hear that shot, like I can't do nothing. So my first reaction was, go to the top. Top's about 30 yards or so behind me, if that. And go to the top. I'll get a 9. I will get a M4 and ammo and 9 so I can see. So, I mean, beat feet to the top, running in there, holler, I need an M4 ammo and 9s. They don't know what's going on outside. While someone's getting that, I put 2 people in position in the prone on the floor there to guard the entrance of the tent. They're trying to help me get that stuff as fast as they can. I kick a chair. I remember saying, their guards must have fell asleep. How did someone get into our camp? If they knew where the commander slept, then they know where the TOC is. That's what maybe put that security there. They have to be coming in here next. So while they're getting that, unbeknownst to me, a grenade explodes in the second tent, a grenade explodes in the third tent, and then someone else is shot. So by the time I get that weapon and stuff, I go back out with the 9s. I go to my tent. I'm calling for the commander. Sir. Hush tones, because I know the enemy's out there somewhere just based on that first interaction. And there's no response. And the 9s aren't working. I can't see anything. I go back to the TOC. I tell a guy, hey, you go and send my TOC. You look for the commander of XO. The XO's been shot while I look for the enemy. And when I went out there, I didn't hear nothing. I didn't see anyone else. So at that point, I was fun. I was the only one out there. So I got on the radio. I called a battalion, told them they were under attack. I need a platoon. I need a squad. Make it a platoon in the vicinity of the TOC. Person responded was one of the battalion commanders. Said, I'll get a platoon order to the ASAP and anything else. No. I walked away from the radios, and then the aid station called and said, hey, do you need FLA? I said, yes, because I knew one person was wounded at that time, sitting in the vicinity of the TOC. Got off of that, went back out. As soon as I go out, I'm challenged. Someone says, halt! Well, if you hear fall, halt, someone's pointing at him. Who's there? He identified, he recognized my voice. Like, why are you challenging me? He said, I couldn't see you so much. I don't know who you were. Okay, so we go through that, and I tell him, he said, what's going on? I said, I don't know. I said that the XO's been shot. He said, so has Captain Seifert. So now we know that 2 people have been shot. He asked me what happened to the light set. I said, I don't know. I figured that it ran out of fuel. He said, we'll get it back up. So there was a generator light set that kind of illuminated the whole brigade area there, and it was out. So we learned that there's mass casualties in the second tent. There's mass casualties in the third tent. That's on the inside of the tents. 2 people were shot outside. The XO was shot just in the vestibule. Another person had been out, shot point blank in the back. So we're searching, for the enemy. And we have no signs of the enemy at all. I don't know what uniform we thought the Iraqis or insurgents would have been wearing, but there's no visibility of it at all. We're getting people into security positions to guard our area. And I should have mentioned up front, and I apologize that this camp is I tell people 10 football fields large, and probably bigger than that. I just try to simplify it. There's approximately 5,000 people in this camp. This area that has been attacked is the headquarters that's right in the middle. We have maybe 130 people in the headquarters. The other 4,700 are all around us. So while we're setting up this perimeter to protect the headquarters, our weapons are pointing out at the other 4,700 people somewhere as they are, they are organized all over the camp. So you can see the potential for just like mass fratricide if someone farts in the vicinity of people. So, it's probably really that hair raising, if you will. So we have the security going on. It is chaos, not just on the outside the area there, but inside the tents with the amount of injuries that are going on there. I mean, one guy, he was on his way out in the third tent, he was on his way out, realized he didn't have his magazines, went back in, and when he started back out, that's when a grenade came in there, and he was 17 inches away from the grenade, throws them all in the air. The second tent, they had heard the explosion in the first tent and the gunshots, so a few of them began to stand up. Well, a grenade blows at a 15-degree radius. So if you're above that 15 degrees, I'd probably say 13, because one guy in the second tent was laying down when the grenade exploded in his tent, and he got shrapnel with his feet. And he went like he wore size 22s. So if you're standing up, you're really in danger. There's two guys that were standing up and caught it, really pretty good. So we have all this going on of trying to treat casualties inside and outside the tent, try to get them stable enough to move them outside, finally get the lights set on so we can operate, and our first sergeant sets up a casualty collection point, and we're getting people treated. FLA finally shows up, we get them on litters, and FLA takes them to the aid station on the camp. They're taking them to the aid station, they're getting them stabilized to be able to take the flight to the combat support hospital. No. Fortunately, that CAS for short is only a 2-minute flight. This helicopter comes in, those that are stable get put on their helicopter, takes off. Second helicopter lands. As those people are being put onto the helicopter, put onto the medevac, and it barely gets in the air, and then there's a huge explosion in the sky. It just lights up the whole darn camp, and everyone's looking like, what the hell is that? Well, we think that it's a Scud and that a Patriot missile shot down the Scud. So we got this huge fireball going on. People who didn't have on the mask, the siren was going all night. Now, I'm definitely one who didn't have on a mask. Prior to all this, the siren would go off multiple times and there would never be a Scud. So that night, with all this stuff going on, I don't have time for that. Anyway, but a lot of people didn't know, they put masks on, so you got people donning masks. They see this huge explosion in the sky. But from a leadership perspective and a tactical perspective, we think that we are under a coordinated attack. They're trying to hit us in the air, and they've already hit us on the ground. So now the problem that we have has gotten worse because we still can't identify the enemy on the ground. We get it. Things kind of settled in the talk. I say that something had to have changed on this camp. They cannot be, if they're that good, we're going to get annihilated when we cross the border and go into Iraq. Something changed on this camp. So someone says, we had interpreters come in last night. Bingo, has to be them, go find them. So now we're searching for 2 interpreters, right? Can't find them. Finally find them. And they learn that they have nothing to do with it. Now we're back to square one, looking for the enemy that we haven't been able to identify all night. Our commander, who was concussed from that grenade, had been moving throughout, actually helping with some of the evacuation process there over in the CCP, checking on soldiers and all that. Finally got him inside the top. Now he was injured. Blood's all over his arm. He has it all over his pants. And I remember when I seen him, because I hadn't seen him. And so finally getting inside, anyone seen the commander? I'm asking up here, and they're like, right in front of him. He's like, down here. And I'm looking at it, and all I see is all this blood. And then he says, well, that most of it's from, other people. And he says, you knocked me down. I said, knock you down? I didn't knock you down. You said, go and then you knocked me down. Well, he didn't know, like I didn't know at the time, that a grenade had exploded, and that's what knocked him down. He says, it felt like I got hit by Larry Zonka. Or maybe he's the old guy, not me. I had to Google what he meant.
I caught the reference. I got it. Yeah.
You caught the reference. So, hey, 2003, I Googled real quick. Think, oh, well, we're from Google. Yeah. Anyway, he said, felt like I got hit by Larry Zonka. And so he kind of, gathers his wits and say, we need to get accountability. So we make a net call on the radio and say, we need to get accountability personnel. Calls, reports come in, agreeing on accountability, all except for one unit. The one unit said that we have a soldier missing, a Sergeant Hasan Akbar, and so are grenades and ammunition. And then he became our prime suspect. So when I heard that, so did the intel officer, Major Warren, who had been in the talk from the very beginning with things going on. And throughout the night, had been walking around, pistol in his hand, going to bunkers, checking on people in the bunkers, giving them some direction. At one point, he had told him, you cannot shoot first. We have friendlies all in the area. You can't shoot first, but if someone shoots at you, don't let them do it twice. But by all means, you will not shoot first. Make sure people understood that and try to prevent fratricide. But he was in the talk at the same time and heard this name Akbar just like I did. So we come out and I go to tell our leaders on the ground, what we're dealing with and who we're looking for and all that. Be mindful that likely in the same uniform that we are amongst, so he's one of the 4,700 in the same uniform and all that. I'm sorry, not 4,700. It's the neighborhood of 48 and some change. And I let them decide how they're going to disseminate that information to the soldiers to try to prevent fratricide. I had to remind them that, again, he's probably wearing the same uniform and all that type of stuff because he could just walk up on you. You'd never know. So the only instruction I did have were that if your soldiers are approached, to challenge anyone that approaches them. Major Warren, again, like I said, if you're going around checking on bunkers, he realized that there was one bunker that he hadn't gone to all night. So he goes to that bunker. And as he's approaching the bunker, like he did all night, so he said, who we got in here? And the response was Sergeant Akbar. Akbar didn't know we were looking for him. He has a wherewithal to holster his weapon so it didn't look like a threat. Continues to walk. Akbar's kind of kneeling on the edge of the bunker. And there's another person in there. He said, who else is that over there? So while he was doing that, before that person could answer, he had walked behind Akbar and took him down. And that's how Akbar was apprehended. He tells that other soldier, you guard him, and if he moves, then you shoot him in the head. And he had moved to the front of him, got on all fours, looked him in the eye and said, did you do this? Did you bomb the tents? And Akbar said, yes. So we knew we had the guy. Then we further apprehended him, get him searched and cuffed and all that, and move him to an area. And, before we moved into that area even, I remember I was there right as they were finishing their search. And before we were moving to an area, they stood him up. When they stood him up, this knife fell out. It was dangling on this 550 cord. And I'm like, I'm right there and I see it dangling. I grab it and pull it so hard that it yanks off his belt loop. And I tell those guys, yeah, good search. Like you missed something. Like, good search, guys. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then they move him to another area there. And before they do that, they actually give me his weapon. When the guy said, somebody, you want his weapon? And grenades. I said, well, you can leave the grenades in the bunker, where he was, but I'll take the weapon. It had already been cleared and put on safe, so I took it, made sure it was on safe, smelt it, it's been recently fired, and it had. Now, at some point in there, I'd gone to my tent to get my gear because I didn't have anything, gear on all night, I was in a ski cap and just my BDU top and BDU pants, but that was all I had. Now, just acquired M4 and, the nods and that stuff that I got out of the top. So at one point I went and got my vest and all that type of stuff. But when I went there, I saw a piece of expended brass by my tent where the XO had been shot. And I see all this devastation in my tent. And I get the weapon, I took it back, because I smelled it before. And I knew that it had been recently fired. And I knew that if it had been recently fired, that the ammo that's in this weapon, that's in the magazine, had to match that brass casing on the ground if this weapon committed the attack. That was the only weapon that was shot that night, so there's a high probability. And those rounds, on the back of them in the military, they have numbers and letters on them, and it's called a dodic. If the dodic or the rounds in the magazine matched the shell case, which came from this weapon, then he did it. He's the one who committed this crime. So I messed those two up. I put a guard on. I told him to guard those things. You're not to leave until I relieve you. I noticed in my tent that, and that's when I saw that the frag grenade had gone into there. In addition to learning that first thing that I couldn't identify that it actually was an incendiary grenade that starts fires. And that's why I was sparking before it emitted the flame and all that type of stuff. And it burnt up our colors. The sergeant majors, the guard, the unit colors. Okay, now I failed because they're all burnt. They're all ashes. Like I kicked their ashes, just fell off. It was the American flag, our regimental colors, and then our brigade colors just burnt up. So now I'm pissed. I come out of the tent and I'm going right over to where they have them at. And I want to do something. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I want to do something, And as I get closer to him to make a dumb decision, someone comes up on my flank and they're trying to get at him, and I spend my time holding them back, and I would get to carry out my plan, whatever
Sure.
the dumb thing I was going to do. I would get an opportunity to do it. So they move Akbar to another area. And after that, and one guy asked him, so now he's asked for the second time, but he asked him why he did. And he said, to keep y'all from killing our women and raping our children. I had to pause for a minute. That was probably 30 feet or so away from him. But the word that stuck out was our, O-U-R. Like, who the hell is our? It didn't click. This guy has his uniform on. It says Army. He had a flag on the shoulder, all that. Our? Who's our? But then it hit me based on his last name. He was aligning religion to the Iraqi people.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that was I just kind of shook my head. Like I couldn't fathom that. CID comes, they take them away, they do their investigation. The trial happens 2 years later. Before I get to the trial, I guess I should say that we lost 2 people.
Right.
Kevin Seaver was shot point blank in the back, died of wounds later that day. This happened like 1:00 in the morning. So I think by 08 we learned he didn't make it. And 2 days later, Major Stone had died from 83 grenade shrapnel wounds from that grenade. Like I said, he was standing up. So we lost 2 people, and then 13 others were wounded.
Wow. That is
6 of them.
Yeah, that is to say that was chaotic is a dramatic understatement. From you telling the story, I have been with you word for word, trying to visualize what that could have looked like. And by the way, I remember the news coverage of this when it happened, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today. But it sounds like when you didn't know what was going on, your brain was trying to make sense of the chaos, but thankfully, it sounds like you were just thinking ahead and realizing what I'm assuming isn't reality, what's really going on. Is that right?
Yeah, because we didn't know it was him. So you have to kind of process all of it. Like, I guess, whatever is being presented to you, I would say it's like a quarterback. What's the defense giving you? It's giving me this. That's what I see. It doesn't change. Now it gave me that. It's like, this is what the elements is being presented to me. That's all I can analyze at this time. I couldn't go beyond that. Like we were looking everywhere the enemy could possibly be with no sign of the enemy. We couldn't even fathom thinking that it would be one of our own. And even if we did, you think about it, let's say we did make this in, has to be one of our own guys, that's fine. That's fine. How do you do that with, like I said, another 4,800 plus people? Okay,
Right.
which one of them? Yeah. So when he was apprehended, CID comes, one of our guys says that when Captain Seaver was shot, he saw the shooter run. Now we know that to have been Akbar, but then he says he thought he saw someone else run. So he's trying to lead us to believe that there's another guy. So after Akbar's apprehended, I mean, after he's with CID, we're standing there talking, and at a distance, like 75 yards away, 75 meters away, the same guy sees someone at a distance. He raises his weapon, halt. He didn't ask it. I'm like, halt, what are you doing? Put your hands on your head, get on your knees. Now we challenge our own people just because of his thought thinking that there were two people involved and not one. So, I had to lower his weapon. Like, there's no way that we were not going to do this to our unit all night long.
Sure.
Trying to ascertain if there's an accomplice or not. It turned out not to be one. CID, figured out that he acted alone, but that was the mindset that we were in. So it just kind of kept going, from that point on.
Right. So I also picked up from your story that you realized something was going on and you kept moving. A lot of people, when they are scared, something goes on, they want to try to hunker down and stay in place. But throughout your story, you're telling me you move from one place to another to another. How does that help somebody in a chaotic situation like this?
Yeah, I would say, I wouldn't train to look for an enemy, by myself. Let's get that point out there. But I would say that the training kicked in terms of really an analysis, by sitting in op orders and sitting in intel briefings and all those types of things. I guess you pick up on it of how to assess the situation and what the next steps should be based on what's going on. So, we're looking for one enemy. We got a whole bunch of people out there. We got to, you have our perimeter set up. Eventually get to accountability personnel. You're trying to identify the enemy so you can take it out and prevent all the casualties or any more casualties. So that's first and foremost. So you got the security while you try to look for the enemy at the same time. And in this particular case, there were very much two different things. Not to mention, you have the casualty evacuation. You have the treatment in the evacuation. All this is happening simultaneously. Like, I'm working on a screenplay right now, and it's like, can you keep up? I'm trying to put everyone in the same sense of what you're feeling and what I've told you thus far, of all these things going on. So you can imagine if you're looking at it on screen, like that's happening, and they're all simultaneous. But that's what it was that night. So I guess you have to have the wherewithal, and more importantly, the patience. I remember being asked were you afraid or scared? I didn't have time. I didn't have time.
Sure.
So that wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even a thought. I don't know how it wasn't a thought. It was never a thought. I don't think it's ever been a thought. It's just, you have to react. This is happening. From the very beginning, sparks, gotta go. That's something that I shouldn't be near, right? Gotta go. Get this guy up who's asleep. The other guy can fend for himself. He sees what I saw. He can move. He knows what to do. This guy back here should done. Gotta get out. Let's go. Unbeknownst, this grenade comes in. Didn't know that. But then, okay, have to arm myself. Don't have ammo. I'm no good to nobody if I can't defend me and them. That's no good. Got to get ammo. Can't see at night. Got to get nods. Nods not working. Okay. Come back. Can't find them. I can't continue to look for them and the enemy at the same time unless I can prevent that. So I prevented that by sending someone else to go look for them while I'll look for the enemy. I thought it'd be easier to find them. There have been confines of that little area of the tent where the enemy could be anywhere. let me do that. And realizing, okay, I probably shouldn't do that by myself. It'll be harder trying to do it by myself. I need help. Send a platoon over here. That's 30-ish people. Now I'll have more. At the time, again, I didn't know that people were in the second tent or the third tent or someone else had been shot. I just knew when I came out, no one else is out there, and I couldn't look for the enemy by myself. It would take a lot longer. So give me some reinforcements that will help for that, in addition to securing the area. But that would have been something that I would need to have done anyway, based on the amount of casualties. So the people if we had 130 people in a unit and all these people are injured and more people are helping, trying to treat them, I'm down manpower anyway. And that was the situation. So getting those people over there to help secure the area, just, help the overall effort. And we get that secured, moving people around and in the positions and all that. People giving them instructions to prevent fratricide. I can't compare any other unit, but if there's one thing that, if there's a positive takeaway, one of them top of the list would be our first sergeant in our training taught our soldiers, to include officers. This unit is officer heavy. All the casualties was officers except one. To only shoot at what you can positively identify.
Sure.
And that prevented fratricide, would probably should have been more casualties due to fratricide than what we suffered from the enemy.
Right. And that's a very good point, because you're talking about all of these people who were all just suddenly woken up or, knocked down from a blast, not sure what's going on. You are looking for what you think is, an enemy dressed in a different type of uniform or looks a certain way. And that's, not the case at this point. But yeah, just having that control to understand of, hey, I need to really identify any potential target that is here. And I like this suggestion of, hey, don't shoot first, but don't let them shoot at you twice.
Yeah. That was our intel. I should have said that. And someone came to me that I wanted to mention it. Oh, in 98 or a little bit higher percent had never been to combat. So you've never been to combat, and this is your first thing.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
It doesn't have I won't say it have Indian trade. There's been times you go like JRTC or something like that, and you're in your sleep, and then the Op 4 attacks you at night, and you have to react. So there has been training for this type of scenario. To be honest with you, at least you knew that it was the Op 4, and there was an identified enemy of something to look for, how they were dressed and all that, as opposed to coming out and there's nothing. Then eventually find out it's one of your own. And I want to mention before I forget here that we learned later that day, which is in the morning, I would say daylight, we learned that what the Patriot had shot down was a British Tornado jet that was returning from a mission. So although they were on a different camp, we're in the desert, these 3 explosions and the 2 gunshots, that sound is traveling all around, had not happened in the 101st Airborne Division's footprint in Kuwait the whole time, and also when the hell is going on. Now it comes this fast-moving object where there have been no scuds at all, doing all this chaos that they can hear, and they see that fast-moving object across their screen, and they shoot it down. So so we did have fratricide or friendly fire, but it was from the Patriot vessel, which wasn't on our camp.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just absolutely so many moving parts, so many people, so many things going on. My mind is like going in a bunch of different directions here, but I'll ask you kind of from the perspective of looking back on this, how did this change you not only as a soldier, but as a human being? What was your perspective after this?
Yeah. First and foremost, the second best thing that happened out of this was we deployed to Iraq 2 days later. I forget my math, but I think it says 51 hours later, we are in our trucks and moving toward Iraq. That was the best thing that happened to us. That enabled us to put Camp Pennsylvania in this incident, at least Camp Pennsylvania, and being on the camp right near it in our rearview mirror. You know, it didn't leave our heads. I would say left mine. I never thought about it anymore because now we had the real ending. that was just going to do more devastation in plain sight, I would say, in this particular case. But that's the thing that we trained and were prepared for, you know, was that. So that was the best thing that happened to us. But the first thing to lead me was trust. To answer your question, it was trust.
Sure.
I didn't necessarily tell myself that. It kind of manifested. Actually, it manifested before we left. So again, this happened like 1 o'clock in the morning. We have that whole day going on into, and then now it's a Sunday. Well, it was a Sunday. It gets into Sunday night. Before dark, my mindset was, okay, one of our soldiers did this. Is it probable to happen again? And now it is. 2 nights ago, it wasn't because I didn't think it was probable before. Excuse me. I think maybe in the back of my mind, even though CID said there wasn't an accomplice, a soldier did this, could it happen again? It was probable now. So, remember I told you the camp, headquarters here, 4,800 plus people all around us. I had a platoon of our own people come over and guard the headquarters. Pretty much like the program that we had before. I got a whole platoon dedicated to do that. I had never seen any of my soldiers in the whole time of my career, any soldier, take guard more seriously than they did that night.
Sure.
More seriously than they did that night, knowing that their weapons and their aggression would be against one of our own. That's the most I've seen anybody take guard that serious.
Yeah.
And they're protecting this headquarters from our own people. So that was the first thing about trust. I was like, okay, got me once, they're going to get me again. You know, and when I looked at that kids on the devastation, it wasn't just the colors burnt out. Saw the grenade blew up. And I didn't mention this earlier, that it blew up while I slept. So had I not been watching Tiger Woods play golf, then I would be dead. Right. That's why I wanted to go do something to him. But you almost got me once. You ain't going to get me again without me trying to prevent it. So I had those people come over and guard the headquarters. Now, the commander didn't say no. No one else said, Bart, somebody, you don't want to do that. No one said nothing. Because they, you know, they were you know, victims as well. They were, you know, almost killed themselves. So no one stopped me. Then we get to Iraq. And we got to this first town, and we had, you know, people had left. So we took over some buildings. I remember it was like this townhouse or whatever. And it's dark and there's no power. It's night and almost chow time. And I'm in there with the commander, acting XO drivers. And they're all gone. And I hear these feet, you know, on the sand, on the concrete, coming in the building. And I come around the corner, and it's a soldier. But what he said is what got me. I said, what are you doing? It's one of mine. What are you doing? I was just looking around. That didn't sit well with me. That didn't sit well with me because he's one of my soldiers, but he's in the field artillery unit. Still ours, but it's the field artillery part. Kind of far away from that. You're kind of far away up here in the command where the commander sleeps, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I said some things to that guy. You would think, I said some things to that guy. Let's put it like that. And at the end of it, don't you ever come back over here. 2 nights later, it happens again. I hear the feet, same time. It's the same time. Here they come again. So this time, pull up my pistol, I got ammo, cock it, they turn the corner and my pistol's right in their chest of their vest. And then I see this and it's one of my headquarters sergeants. He says, "Sergeant Major, I got your mail." I think it started with what the F, Sergeant Major. I got your mail. Yeah. But the point you asked me, to answer your question, it was trust. Like gone. And these are people in uniform. Well, that didn't matter to me anymore. This whole uniform says Army. Yeah, you sold me on that for all these years, but good luck trying to convince me that that's the reason why I should have some allegiance or whatever. That's just gone.
Right.
It's just gone.
So at
now.
this point,
yeah,
the behavior of the person matters more than the uniform. Is that what you're saying?
oh yeah, yeah. I'm from Missouri. Well, not technically, but now I am. You got to show me. I don't care what I see. Something got to come out of your mouth. You got your actions, all that type of stuff. That uniform alone, you might as well put on something else because I'm not paying attention to that.
Right.
I'm not paying attention to that.
Yeah. Why are you here? What are you doing? This looks unusual.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. So
you shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me tell you what we learned in the trial. It wasn't just where you said to keep y'all from killing our women and raping our children. Unbeknownst to us, this is what he had written in his diary. Unbeknownst to us. Now, I'll start by saying that religion doesn't pull the trigger. People do. They can be radicalized and be extremists, but you look in whatever religion people follow or whatever that word is, that book, it does not pull the trigger. People do. This is what he wrote in his diary in 1993. I do not like the military. They have too much control over people's lives. I suppose I'm just anti-government. 1996, he writes, anyone who stands in front of me shall be considered the enemy and dealt with accordingly. 1996, he writes, destroying America was my plan as a child and as a juvenile and in college. My life would not be complete unless America is destroyed. Destroying America is my greatest goal. What year was that? What year did I say?
Late 90s.
I'll tell you again. 1996. 1998, he joins the Army. So this is planned all along.
Right.
This is his plan to destroy America. No one person can destroy America. I don't even believe that there's a button that anyone can push in this world that can destroy America. Can it destroy, and can someone destroy parts? Yes, they can. Bin Laden destroyed parts.
Right.
Hasan Akbar destroyed parts, and his part happened to be us that night. February 2003, the attack happens in March 2003. He writes in his diary, I am not going to do anything as long as I stay here at Fort Campbell. But as soon as I get over there, I am going to try to kill as many of them as possible. So that's what was in his diary. So one of my biggest takeaways from this is that coming from the close-knit brotherhood of the military, and one thing we pride ourselves on is knowing our soldiers so we can take care of the welfare of them and their families. How do we not know this? And then here's the kicker. We don't go home with them at night. So we don't know if they're becoming radicalized. We don't know what they're writing in their diary. We really don't know who the hell they are. Because what they bring to work with their uniform on and playing in the reindeer games and singing the song of values and pledging, it doesn't matter. The oath that I took is the same oath he took. This is what's in his diary. This is what happens when he goes home. This is who he is. So when you ask me about the trust and when I tell you about the trust and the makeup of people in the uniform, no, that don't matter. What is that? I don't know what you're doing because I don't go home with you at night.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great point. A lot of people just make assumptions by what people will say or the clothes that they wear and things like that. But deep down, you don't necessarily always know what's going on in somebody's heart, as you just showed us from his diary entries.
Mm. No, we don't know. We think we know. We like to know. Of course we would. But I think that the world, the public needs to realize that what you are witnessing, what you are seeing, what you are assessing is what they are putting out there. That's as good as that gets. That's as good as that gets. So when we talk about trust, and so when I speak, that's the first thing on the list. When I talk about my situational awareness strategy, is the trust part. And I say right up front, I trust no one. Trust no one. Tell them trust no one. Just like you responded, You know why I say that? Well, one, that's me. But two, I want people to think about how they trust. So when you say, it makes it, things make you go, Let me think about that. That's exactly what I want them to do. Because some people say, I trust them until they give me a reason not to. So whatever they're presenting what they want you to see and determine about them. But is that the truth? Is that what you're going to trust is what they're doing, or do you actually know? How well do you know them?
Right.
What do you assess when you're talking about trust? What do you truly assess when you're talking about trust?
Right.
Now,
And
not
also
to be
kind of
confused with expectations. Now, you might have expectations of them. That's not to be confused with trust. I expected that people who wore the uniform would do it based on the oath, would do it based on the values and all those things. That's what I expected. After that incident, I no longer trusted that was the case and that anyone would do that. Anyone in that uniform would do that.
Right. Right. And so you're just not buying immediately what people are selling. They have to prove it to you. You have to watch their actions. That's the message that I'm getting from what you've told me so far.
Yeah.
Right. So
everyone's going to develop their own level of trust in how they do it. But when I say that, when that's how I do it, that's how I live. But I want them to truly analyze trust for them.
Right. So now you're taking your experience and your understanding, and you were teaching other people about situational awareness. Kind of give me, situational awareness is a huge term, but kind of give me your brief definition of what that means for you.
Yeah. So it's proactive situational awareness. I can know what's happening over here, but the proactive part enables them to have some strategies. So I provide 6 strategies to proactive situational awareness. Something they can do ahead of time, while they're analyzing. It's proactive. A lot of times you hear all these attacks happen or whatever, and the thing happens, or the response is to, okay, let's get a resource officer in the school. Okay, now let's get one that's armed, or let's do this, or let's do that. That's reacting. That's not proactive.
Sure.
Okay, proactive is we have locks on the doors so people can't come in and go out and all those types of things. As I get further into it, okay, that's great. Are you locking the person in there while you're doing that? There's potential for that. Maybe not. But more importantly, let's look at who the shooter is. Let's just take the school. I digress here a minute. But let's just take that school, for example.
Sure, yeah.
The majority of them, if we look at all of them, every case is not the same. But a lot of them in that particular situation are the same. 90% of the time, it's someone that's at the school already. And if they're at the school already, what are they putting out? What are they showing you that leads them, that makes you think that it's a possibility? So you take these strategies and you apply them to situations. What are they giving you that you can kind of analyze and see? Because the person's right there already. So when you're locking the doors, or you potentially locking them in because they're already right there.
Right.
The resource officer is there, but so is the person. They've gotten so smart now, they take out the resource officer first because that's the only threat. No one else is paying attention. I'm talking schools, and not just the administrators and the staff and the faculty, it's the students. They are the closest to it. So most of these strategies apply to the student. Most of the strategies apply to, the fellow co-worker. They apply to the person that's right there. And I tell them in the end that they are the first line of defense. Yeah, police are going to come. Police are going to come reactively after the bullets stop flying. They rarely show up when the bullets are flying. The bullets have stopped, and it may be the person, like, it's, what is it? Suicide by cop, where the cop's showing up, and I don't have the guts to kill myself, but I keep shooting at the police long enough, they'll kill me.
Right.
So that's what they're not continuing to shoot at victims while the police are there. That's what ends up happening. So it's the proactive strategy that makes this effective. Now, there's no one science that combats this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it in the news, and that would be great. But unfortunately, it's going to be there for quite some time. So the first one is trust no one. I gave you a reason why I don't, but more importantly, not to just look at the picture or analyze it any further, and how you trust the airline. For people to do that, let them do that themselves. Another one is observe, listen, and report. So that's a proactive approach. I'll give you an example. I was a property building manager in an apartment building right across the street from UCLA. They had just taken over. It was a couple of years after I got out of the military. I was doing that while I was working in Hollywood as an actor and military technical advisor. So right across the street from UCLA. And I just taken over, and I come out this door, and the light was supposed to come on automatically. The light didn't come on. So I go back in, come out another door. Same thing was supposed to happen, didn't happen. So I said, okay, let me start writing down these deficiencies. I go get a pen and paper, come out. I'm writing down. So now I'm looking at all the exterior lights. It's probably this time of year. It's getting dark. 16:30, 16:45 or whatever. And I'm writing things down. I tell myself, if someone's watching me right now, they should think that this is suspicious behavior. It's casing.
Right. Sure.
Apartment building's here, right? A frat house is here, a frat house is here. Go back in, come back out, do the same thing. Go back in. Now I'm start writing deficiencies on the inside. So when I make my order, I can just make one order. I get up to the 5th floor and walk in there, freeze. Well, I've been around long enough to know what freeze means. You freeze.
Sure.
And then I hear they identify themselves, put your hands in the air, drop your pen, drop what's in your hands. There goes a pen, there goes a paper, hands behind your back. Well, okay, bottom line, they handcuff me, have me sit on the floor. And they say, you fit the description of the person that was called in. I say, no, I am the description. Because I already told myself that this looks suspicious if someone's watching.
Sure.
I didn't know someone was watching or not. So it wasn't a surprise when I heard the things that I heard. The surprise was that there was 5 of them. Like, why would 5 people come for a call of someone armed with a pen and a piece of paper? And that was the surprise part. But, why they were there wasn't a surprise. So they tell me that, I show my ID, and then, okay, that's over. But the point here is that someone was observing and they reported. Now, sometimes you get to do all 3. You're close enough where you can hear it. There was nothing for them to hear, but they observed and they reported. So that's a proactive thing that works. They were wrong, and they were wrong in that I was doing something wrong. My actions were potential of doing something wrong, but they observed, they reported. I applauded it, although I never met who it was.
Sure.
That's why I told myself, if someone's watching right now, they should think that this is suspicious behavior. This is before the book, right? There's another one. There was a prom in the state of Virginia. I want to say Virginia Beach area, somewhere in that area. And these young guys, they want to buy tickets to the prom. But someone working selling tickets, like they didn't look like they didn't go to school. She asked them. They made something up, said, well, it's our friend's going, it's our friend goes here or whatever, but something didn't look right. So she calls the police. Didn't sell them a ticket. Called the police, told them what's going on. Police came. They tracked the guys down. They were in a nearby hotel where the prom was going to take place. So they came there the next day. And they happened to see the guys. Bottom line, they chase one of them on foot, capture him. Another guy gets away momentarily. Guns fall out of his pocket. Go into the room. All the ammo was in the room. They were just going to shoot up the prom.
Wow.
But it started with the worker who's just selling tickets, observing something, actually listening to something, but then reporting it. This looks suspicious. This sounds suspicious. So all those 3 things proactively work.
Right.
Some people do it. Some people don't do it.
Right.
right? But it's really the proactive thing. I say know your neighbor. In the old days, we used to know our neighbor. Now, not so much, depending on the neighborhood you live in and all that. And that's why you hear on the news all of a sudden there's this incident over here, people dead in the basement, meth house or whatever. He seemed like a nice guy.
Right.
He's
Right.
supposed to seem like a nice guy. They're
Uh-huh.
smart when they leave the house. They know what they want to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's you give them what you want them to assess.
Right.
He was a nice guy. Yeah, he was going to kill you in 2 weeks, maybe. I had no idea I was living next door to him. Yeah, I know, because you didn't know him.
Right.
You just
Right.
knew what he put out. You left it at that. You didn't dig any deeper.
Right.
People will make mistakes if you give them an opportunity to make a mistake. Bottom line here, know your neighbor. But that goes beyond just the person next door to you where you live. It's the person in that cubicle beside you, knowing your co-workers, the place that you frequent. Try to get to know them. They'll talk and they'll tell you. There's very few people that are stoic and keep their mouth shut. Most of them can't wait to talk. And they'll tell you everything you give them enough time.
Sure.
You can befriend them in 3 minutes and they'll tell you everything. And if you get another day with them, they'll tell you more and they'll tell you more. But the point is just get to know them.
Right.
Then you'll hear some things. I came to work, I was on my way to work, and this is an example. Well, a personal example, an example of knowing that when you get to know them, like they're on their way to work and someone cut them off. A dude cut me off or whatever, blah, 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 blah. I guys like to play. I got a buddy that's a private investigator. I'm going to have him look that up. I'm going to find him. But they'll tell you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They will tell you.
They'll tell you.
Then they come back the next day. Okay, did you find that guy? Whatever, or they'll tell you what they're going to do. Something's escalated. I don't like, James over there and such a problem with that. He did whatever. Like he did it again. I'm going to put him in. I'm effing him up. Whatever. I'm going to do whatever after. They'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So then when it happens, and the investigator, what he said he was, well, he told you that he was. He might not have told you when, but he told you that he was. Or she told you that she was. And then the worker that comes to work and says, like my person I'm in a relationship with, it could be a husband, could be boyfriend, whatever. This thing happened and like he's mad, whatever. He says he's going to do this to me or whatever. I can't leave him because I had no place to live or whatever. But, he always says that, but he never does anything. He said he's going to come work and kill me. And then he said he's going to kill you too because you're my friend and all the rest of my friends. But they will tell you if you know them well enough and allow them to tell you. So we can't be surprised when they come do it. They didn't say when they were going to do it. But my point is, if you know them, they will tell you. Just be patient.
Right.
But if you don't get to know them, then you're never going to know.
Right.
So even that night with Akbar, but with Akbar, he was known to be a loner and all those types of things. And I say this, that on the eve of war, and the person is being, to themselves and all that, again, this high percentage that had not deployed before, my mind would have said, okay, what's wrong? People, they're giving you something to analyze. You got to analyze. Sure. Some behavior is suspicious. Loner on the eve of deploying to go fight a war is a bit suspicious to me. It could have been they got a phone call. Mom's not doing well. This is happening, but whatever. I want to ask a question. Why? Why are you what? Because now I can hear an answer. Let me hear what you're going to say. And then I'll follow with that. And then I'll follow with that. Because it could have been family member, then that's on their mind. But I need them to tell me that. But they're never going to tell me if I never ask. Because I didn't act on the behavior.
Sure.
That behavior begged a question. Could have been, hey, I'm scared to go fight this war. The behavior begged the question. The question wasn't asked.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I've heard people referred to kind of like in radio terms, everybody is always on transmit. You just have to make sure that you're on receive to see what those signs are and to be able to hear what people are saying, not just say, oh, I'm sure that's nothing or blow it off, but really, like you said, like, I'm going to go punch that guy in the mouth. I've heard that my entire life. People have always said stuff like that. And then sometimes it ends up happening.
Right. Punching in the mouth, not as bad as I'm going to shoot him.
Well, sure.
But still, the point is, are you listening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you listening?
Which brings me
Yeah.
to my next one is listen, don't just hear. Here's an
Mm-hmm.
example of a college classroom, a sophomore classroom. Criminal justice class, these students are in there and they get on the subject of guns. A few of them say, well, I got a gun, I got a gun, I got a gun. Now we have an adult professor in the room with these 19-year-old sophomores. One of the students says, well, I have an AK-47. It's in the trunk of my car. So professor, the alarm should have been to professor, again, certain behavior and things beg a question, where is your car? Because it's on campus, you're not allowed to have a weapon on campus.
Good point.
But professor didn't do nothing. You know why the professor didn't do anything? Because my next strategy is to listen, don't just hear.
Right.
He just heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't think to ask, is your weapon on campus? Other 19-year-olds didn't think it either. But one did. And he said, it sounded a matter of fact. This guy has an AK-47 and it's in the trunk of his car right now. But he also knew that his car was on campus.
Mm-hmm.
So class goes on and leave. Student who was listening goes back and he tells me, says, Sergeant Major, this is a military college. He says, we're in class, same scenario I just explained to you. So-and-so said he has AK-47 in his trunk of his car. He said, it sounded a matter of fact. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I just felt I need to tell you.
Sure.
Okay. Student comes back. Hey, let's take a walk to your car. Get about 100 meters from his car. He says, I just want you to know before we get to my car, I have an AK-47 in the trunk. Now, no ill will was planned. He was supposed to link up with a fellow student to take it over to that student's dad's house who lived in a rural area. Dad was going to lock it up. They would come out there on the weekend and shoot, lock it back up, go on their way. But they missed link up the day prior.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to keep it in the trunk of his car. What's the mistake? You get to know them, they will talk. That's right. Mm-hmm. When you say the receptor, the receptor's on, all you got to do is listen and receive. One person out of the whole class was listening. Everyone else just heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So when the female worker comes and says that so-and-so is going to, the spouse or whomever is going to kill me and whatever, and she's dead 4 weeks later, well, she told you, one, but were you listening?
Right.
Or you just heard her because she couldn't work saying it all the time. So you stop listening. You stop listening. We're listening at first, Coach Ed, but now you just hear.
Right. And even if you're just listening and you don't know what to do, like the brave guy that came to you and told you about the gun in the trunk, you just tell somebody who you know can do something about it.
That's right.
You don't have to solve the problem 100%.
Right.
You just pass it on to the people who can.
Yeah. Right. It leads me to this example of, ironically, these schools are like co-located. These colleges, very small colleges. But this one, they're in a dorm, and this girl hears these, it sounds like gunshots. Pop, pop, pop. Calls the police, police comes. You know, so if you're on a campus or a school and you make a call about gunshots on your campus, like everybody's coming. Campus police, neighborhood police, way down the road police, everybody's coming. They went in on it. We need their help, but they're coming. And so they all came, and they get there, they get into the dorm, and they talk to the girl, she tells them, and they talk to other students in the dorm, and they say, well, we didn't hear anything, and they can't see any signs of a shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out that someone was in their room popping the plastic. Pop the plastic. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So everybody and their brothers from law enforcement showed up, had helicopters in the air and all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But what's the worst that can happen? Okay, you laugh it off, or police are mad because they use resources or whatever. Got it. I say you write it off as a training drill because you were never going to get a training that felt that live. It was never going to be that live, that real. You would have came there and had to do it in a training. Yeah, we're never going to be like that. So when you showed up and you were intense and you thought that there was a shooter somewhere, like you can't do that in training. You try,
Right.
but you can't make it like that.
Sure.
So you're right
Yeah.
there, you write off a stranger. Yeah, you're mad at the girl, whatever. I applaud the girl because she
Oh
acted.
yeah, absolutely. Yes,
So
she
even
acted.
in my talks, when I'm telling people these proactive strategies, it is never to advocate for them to get in between the potential threat. But it does say that you can do something, just like the guy called and said, look like suspicious behavior, he's casing. You can call and do it. I don't know who the guy was.
Right.
So that can be done. So that people don't have to get themselves in between, the would-be attacker and their weapon by making calls and alerting the right people to do it. You're in the school and you see whatever, you go tell Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so
Right.
and let them deal with it. That's their job now, but
Right.
students should not.
Yeah, and I like that
They,
students now have a number that they can text, and they can say, hey, this is something suspicious that I see. It's anonymous, and it just looks like a kid on their phone. It doesn't look like them going to the office and telling anybody anything to try to to avoid
Right.
suspicion or whatever. They have the immediacy and the privacy to make that text right then and there.
Yeah. Two students at Catholic school, let's say 14, 15 years old, one to another says, don't come to school on this day because I'm going to shoot it up. But fellow 14-year-old student was listening, believed it. But if you're listening, then you believe it. If you just hear it, you don't believe it. And told someone out that attack was mitigated.
Yeah.
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 Julian, you heard of Julian Edelman?
Yeah.
Three-time Super Bowl champion
Yeah.
with the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
I'm going to go backwards here to this observe, listen, and report. When I say you need two of those, his social media account, someone posted, a student posted on there that he was going to shoot up his school. And he was in Port Huron, Michigan. But he posted that on there. Someone saw it, alerted Julian, who alerted his assistant in Boston. She alerted the Port Huron police. They were able to go to the school in the area and mitigate the attack. But someone observed that on his social media account and reported it.
Yeah, that's
So
fantastic.
works.
I've never heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting down to two more areas. Next one's gut check. Like our guts always told us something like, I always thought, at the people dead, I always thought that he that's no good if you felt it here and you did nothing about it.
Right.
When I'm doing my talks, on this one, I have a well, that's probably the next one, but I have a stethoscope on the gut. Like sometimes we need that much clarity of a stethoscope of what our gut's telling us, what our gut is telling us to be able to move and do something. Yeah, that's coming from somewhere. Like we didn't just make that up. You're feeling that for a reason, but we had to begin to act on it. Then the last one is signs. Like the attacks happened, so we didn't see a sign. Okay, that night we didn't see a sign. That's what no sign is. That's what has me doing this work, because my mind is like, how do we not? Because we're supposed to know everything about our people to be able to take care of their health and welfare. Like, how do you not know if that's our jobs as leaders?
Right.
But we got duped. So that's the one that was no sign.
Sure.
A lot of these others, it's there, but it's what you do with the sign. Now, are you paying attention to the sign when it's right there in front of you? And the Parkland High School shooting in Florida, they call it the Valentine's Day Massacre.
Right.
That shooter had been 1 year removed from attending that school, but he frequently hung around the school. But he's posted on social media this gun. So his friends on social media didn't say anything about that. So they should have been going to the administrators at the school and saying, so-and-so posted this on social media. He is around the school every day. He didn't say he's going to do anything, but do you want those two, do you want that connected to your school? This behavior connected to your school from a student that doesn't even go to your school, but he's hanging around your school. And this is what he's doing. Well, there's the sign.
Right.
But they just were not educated on anything to do when they see the sign. So it's right there, but what are you doing about it? So you can't say there was no sign. There was a sign. The shooter in the Santa Fe, Texas school, I want to say that was 2018. Often wore, would start out wearing a shirt that said "Born to Kill." So teaching in the classroom, administrators at the school, you got to do something about that. They eventually did where he wasn't wearing a shirt anymore, but he predominantly wore a trench coat to school, a raincoat. It's Santa Fe, Texas. Now, if you Google right now what that weather is, what it's going to be next month, what it's going to be the next month, what it was last month, it probably ain't going to be raining. It's probably going to be hot.
Yep.
Bottom line, not requirement for a raincoat or a trench coat. But that behavior begs a question. Why are you wearing this? It ain't raining. It ain't raining. Like, why? We wait for the answer, and then we follow up for something that makes sense for them wearing it.
Right.
And when it doesn't make sense, then we go to the parents. Why? Maybe they know. But the sign is there for someone. First of all, if that happens in a school when it ain't raining, and they're wearing a figure and it ain't raining, what does that mean just to you?
That means something is different. Something is off about this person.
Something different.
And I need to investigate what's going on, even if it's me or somebody else does.
Is there a connection somewhere?
Oh, yeah.
Like
I immediately thought about the trench coat mafia thing from Colorado. Yeah. Yeah. I totally got that. Yeah.
Columbine. Yeah. So someone should have been old enough as an administrator or faculty or staff in that school to connect those dots.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So signs were there. They didn't do it. They didn't do anything. 10 people dead, 10 wounded. Whereas one student said afterwards, she said, I always knew it was going to happen here. So what was in her gut that said that before it happened? I always knew it was going to happen here. And I'd rather people have that versus, Bart, we don't want you to come in and speak because you might be invoking the shooter. No, I'm not.
Right.
I'm trying to educate you and these students that they are the first line of defense so they can pick up on the sign and not go home or thinking after the attack that it was always going to happen here. The administrators are thinking, well, if we never say it, then, well, it ain't going to happen here. If we never say, we never get it, well, it ain't going to happen here.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, we're not manifesting here.
Right, exactly. Manifest, because that's a term, because I will tell people a lot. You have a fire safety plan for your house. You have a fire extinguisher, that sort of thing. Just because you have a fire plan doesn't mean you're going to manifest your house catching on fire. It's the same thing here. Right. Well said, sir. Yep. Well said. Mr. Womack, thank you so much for your time today. I have enjoyed everything about this, from your story to your training. Where can people find out more about you and your book?
Well, LinkedIn is me. And the book is on Amazon.
Very cool. And the name of the book is Embedded Enemy, and you can get it right now.
Embedded Enemy, yes.
Yeah, right now on Amazon. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time in the military. I appreciate what you're doing now, and thank you so much for talking with me today.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and applaud you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you.